You guys ever get picked on as a kid? Well, most everybody can tell some story, but, was it just teased? Was it just teased, or did a bigger kid actually grab you at one point? You got a brother in the house? It's likely yes, of course. Cousins you're close to, but even if you talk family, did you have that bigger guy that you just couldn't deal with at some point when your kid grabbed you? Maybe he held you down. Maybe he gave you a noogie. But did it happen? And if it did, could you beat that guy today? That guy that was stronger than you, that guy that held you down, the guy, whether he was being a jerk or you were just playing, in your mind's eye, now that you're grown and there's time that's gone by, you're not that little rat anymore, could he do that to you today? It's a tough one. And this is what we call big brothering. Right? You guys have heard this even within our sport of MMA. You've heard about being big brothered. But it's very real. It's very, very real. And I can't help but be most curious if Leon or Kamaru remember it that way. I can't help but wonder, what do they really feel inside? If you go and look at the last contest, of which the ending was lightning in a bottle, okay? If you go and look at that contest and we take out the ending because we understand how rare that is, what about that match do each guy learn that he needs to work on for when he competes with that same guy again? Most intimidating thing that a fighter will ever deal with. It is not losing. It is not the power of his opponent. It's not the guy's record. It's not the belt color he has in traditional martial arts. It's none of those things. Those are what commentators say. A fighter is only going to fear the concept that he's going to reach exhaustion prior to his opponent. If you ever have a fighter who's confident going into a fight, he does not believe he has more power. He doesn't believe he has more skills. He doesn't believe he's better. He doesn't believe he's going to win. When you have a fighter that's confident, yes, training camp was great. When they tell you they feel confident, it means they believe if push comes to shove, I can hold up longer than him. If this gets down and gritty, it's a 15-minute fight. We're 13 and a half minutes in, and he's coming at me. I can follow the golden rule of protect myself at all times. That's it. That's it. If a guy is confident, that's what that means. If a guy lacks confidence, that's what it means. It means later in the fight when things get hard, I don't think I can hold up the same as he can. That's exactly what it means. I had a short training camp. I didn't have enough time to prepare. That's what it means. It means if things get going hard, I can't push back as much as he's giving. I realize I'm saying that over and over again, but if you did watch that last fight, guys, that's the conclusion you would have to first come to. Leon was not holding up. Leon did not have the energy or the gas left in the tank to reasonably win a round, to reasonably win a sequence. Mathematically, he had already lost the fight. Should it go to a decision? So step number one, if you were part of that last match, if you're Leon, you got to go get in better shape. Now, there's a couple of things that can affect that. And this is where things get tough, right? If you're Leon, do you just get up earlier and run a little harder? Well, there's a couple of things that affect it. There was things that were affecting that match. By example, you had an urgency from Leon. He cannot go and manufacture that. He cannot put himself down by 3 rounds with 4 minutes left to go. He can't do that. With a life and a dream and the money and the contract and the promise a little boy made his mom. He can't do that. Also, something called an adrenaline dump. An adrenaline dump is absolutely exhausting. I mean, it is true. Real exhaustion, and many of you, please don't think, I do not attempt to condescend, but maybe you don't know what it means to be truly exhausted. You've been tired before. You've had to run to your mailbox and back while your father timed you before. I mean, you got tired. You had to run from somebody while you had the ball that was trying to get, I'm not saying you have been tired. To reach exhaustion, it's a rare thing. Why would you be? Why would have you ever been exhausted? Why would you ever know how hard you can run for how long you can run if a bear isn't chasing you? Why would you know? There's not a lot of things in life. It's not because you played baseball. Not because you were part of the softball team. There's very few things in life where you must defend yourself and you must exert to the point that you can no longer move. That you will be absolutely numbed with exhaustion. Very few. When you have an adrenaline dump, that's what it does to you, and it does it to you fast. Right? If you could normally run 500 yards before you reach exhaustion, in seconds, an adrenaline dump can do that to you. When you get excited, when you get on an absolute high of excitement, which is what you would feel if you were Leon and you're on top of your nemesis, and it's the very first round, and you have his back, and you're coming under the throat, and you can hear Bruce Buffer saying and new, you can feel Dana putting the belt on you, you know Joe Rogan's going to want to talk to you, and not in a consolatory tone. There is an absolute level of excitement when all of that gets taken away, creates what's called an adrenaline dump. And an adrenaline dump will make you exhausted. And that's been the one thing that I haven't known as we lead in to this trilogy fight. I knew that what Dean Thomas was telling us was true. I knew that Leon's goals had changed. I knew that Leon was no longer trying to win the fight. He was just trying to complete the fight. I knew all of those things to be true. What I didn't know, and I still don't, is that because of the offense and the output and the pace that Kamaru Usman was putting on him, or is it because he had an adrenaline dump? He thought it was going to be over. A match turned out to be more difficult than he was prepared mentally for it to be. And that's one thing I've never known after that first fight. I remember where I was. I went and saw it at a movie theater. My father-in-law, my mother-in-law, my hot-ass wife, I had Joel, I had Lad. I mean, I remember this moment. Now they're doing that right here at Bridgeport. You can buy a ticket and go watch a pay-per-view, but don't think they had done it before. I'd never heard of it. So I went down and I'm in an actual theater. I got a popcorn, I got a something. It was a great experience when the head kick heard around the world pops up on TV. And we had two guys in the movie theater, by the way, that had left. They thought they'd beat parking. They had left when that kick landed. I mean, right? It was one of these really special things. How funny for those guys. Why was Leon tired? Was he tired because of the output his opponent was putting forward? I mean, if that is true, if Leon has to look at it and go, yeah, man, I was shot 13 minutes in. Shot. I was in survival mode all of round 4. If that is the situation, he's in a tough spot. He'll know that in his heart, but he's in a tough spot. And if you end up in a spot like that, there's a number of things that you could do before we get this far. You can find other opponents. You could go to the media and you could try to juxtapose and you could try to get somebody else. You could all of a sudden, like all the fighters, like, just not feeling so good today. There's something going around called a pandemic that I could probably say hit me and probably not have any follow-up checks. I'm only sharing for you. Leon didn't do any of those things. Leon didn't do anything that a guy who has to go face his greatest fear, which is an opponent who can push harder than he can. Leon hasn't done anything like a guy in that position would generally do. And of the possibilities as to why not, you of course do have to consider because he wasn't that exhausted. Because he did not feel that Kamaru Usman offered an offense greater than a defense than he could put back. Which would lead you more along the lines of an adrenaline dump, but he hasn't said that either. It's been quite quiet. You are pushed around by somebody. And you remember that. And it stays with you. But what does stay with them here was that Leon being completely exhausted is the memory that Leon had Kamaru's back and wasn't good enough to finish him early and dry. Or is it lean towards Kamaru? which is after I had this guy exhausted, after I'm 20 minutes in and I've hit him with everything, he was still standing there. And he still had the physicality and the mental paralysis to see me dip as he threw a left high kick to my head. Took everything that I ever had. One of those guys keeps the other one up. Big question as we go into this fight. Which one of those guys is it?